Tonight we are here with the Honourable David Hickey, Minister responsible for the New Brunswick Housing Corporation. Welcome, Minister Hickey.
Thanks very much, Scott. Glad to be here.
So now firmly in your second year and looking back on your first full year as Minister responsible for housing, how would you describe the state of housing in New Brunswick?
We're very much still in a housing crisis. But what I would say is a year in, I think we've got the vision laid out really clear as to how New Brunswick is going to come out of this national and international crisis that we all face. And I think what it's really rooted in is an understanding of how we get more developers in the market to add the right kind of supply to the market, while at the same time building new affordable housing faster than we ever have to make sure that we can support those, all while creating the dynamics in the market that protect tenants, ensure that rent stays competitive but low and stable, so that we can really make sure that that vision is laid out and clear over the rest of our term, but over the next many years in New Brunswick.
After leading the New Brunswick Ministerial Homelessness Task Force through its inception phase, how do you assess the province's progress and what immediate steps are in front of you?
Yeah, so what you'll see tonight is we've laid out three really important metrics related to housing and affordability. One, the number of new housing starts we're going to hit, and we hit in the last year. Affordable housing starts, and our chronic homelessness numbers. Those are really the four key metrics. And what we said last year at the State of the Province is we're going to commit to reduce chronic homelessness in this province by 40%. Few things we needed to do first. We needed to make sure that we stopped and slowed the inflow of people going into homelessness. So that's why we added $21 million to the direct-to-tenant subsidy so that people who were living unaffordably at the risk of homelessness could access a subsidy that would protect their housing. We did that. It's protected 1,200 families in the province, in additional families this year. The second part is we put in a rent cap. Single biggest piece of tenant protection legislation in the province's history to make sure that rent was stable in the province and that we were able to see that moving forward, tenants knew what their rent was going to be not only this year, but next year, and we wouldn't see people priced out of the market. We really did that as an attempt to slow the entry into homelessness. And what we've done with pulling together a task force is said, look, we realize that there's a bunch of different government departments that are playing a role in homelessness, and other levels of government that are playing a role in homelessness. How do we make sure that that is coordinated with the urgency it deserves at a high level in government? And then how do we also make sure that the stakeholders and the community members that are living this and working this every day have a direct voice into that group? So that's why we came up with the task force and added an advisory council made up of those stakeholders so that their voice could be heard too. And what I would say is that while we are by no means out of the woods yet on homelessness, and the numbers have still gone up, we have seen a slowing in the number of people entering homelessness. And we're hopeful in that, and we're hopeful that with this task force, with the release of our homelessness strategy in December, that we can really lay the groundwork for what our vision is moving forward. And we continue to be on track, like I said earlier, as you'll see tonight, we'll continue to be on track and are meeting our targets in reducing chronic homelessness by 40%.
You've spoken often about finding the right balance between protecting renters and encouraging investment.
Yeah.
What signals are you hearing from developers about maintaining strong construction incentives?
Sure. Well, what I'd say is in the same year that we released the single biggest piece of tenant protection legislation in a 3% rent cap, we also had a historic number of new housing starts added to the market. Over 7,500 housing starts added to the market in New Brunswick. It broke our earlier record, which was met in 1973. We've smashed past that and have had an absolute record year. And our attitude really is we need to make sure that we are protecting tenants so that they know that they have a stable place to live, so that they know that over the last 6 years when I saw a 46% increase in rent, that they knew that they would have that stability. So that's why we offered that with 3%. But we knew that on the other side of that equation, there needed to be some support too. So that's why we stepped up, cut 15% in the cost of new multi-unit construction in the province by removing the HST on new multi-unit construction. It got more developers off the sidelines. It made the math work on a lot of projects that were waiting for the right climate to build. And we said now is the right time to build in New Brunswick. Second thing we did is we froze property taxes with a commitment to real property tax reform that will be released in this year that will systematically transform the way we charge property taxes in this province. And my hope and what we've been pushing for is to make sure that that becomes as competitive as it can be, so that New Brunswick can be well positioned to become the most competitive place to develop in Atlantic Canada.
Thank you for taking time to answer these questions this evening, Minister Hickey.
Yeah, thanks very much, Scott. Thanks for having me.
Perfect.
And I do have a couple of questions for you. And the first one is really, if you were to describe in 2 sentences, what is the state of the province now?
The state of the province right now is brittle. It's brittle. We're dependent on energy and transportation and building infrastructure that really was best suited for the 20th century, and on supply chains as well that were suited for food and for energy that are really emerged in the 20th century and don't provide the kind of resilience we need today. And related to that, our economy also is brittle in the sense that we're overly dependent on the U.S. market, which wasn't an issue, years back now.
I know that you've talked a lot about the need for better health care in this province and access to stronger community care also. So with the province expanding collaborative care clinics and making investments in healthcare staffing, how do you assess the system today, and what immediate and long-term measures do you believe are urgently needed?
Well, the new government is taking some important first steps to make some initial progress, which is good, but it's not yet tackling the fundamental issues. So it breaks down into 3 areas for me. One is management. You can't have the poor state of healthcare that we have today, particularly around access to healthcare, without having poor management, and that's what we've had. We've surely learned that we can't run hospitals without a hospital administrator or a CEO, whatever you want to call them, who's based in the hospital, who has the authority to manage laterally across departments to solve problems. Underfunding, absolutely, we need a generational investment to fix the healthcare system. In the first budget, we didn't see that size of an investment. As a result, we're seeing small additions to collaborative care clinics in the province with allied health professionals, which is positive, absolutely, helps them to serve more patients, but it's not the game changer that we need. So we need to see this coming budget really contain that generational investment on that. And then walking and chewing gum at the same time. My example would be, for example, providing access to acute care in our hospitals and providing access to long-term care for seniors and others who need that kind of health care in nursing homes, special care homes, and so on. We've got to be able to do both at the same time, and we have been failing, and we continue to fail with that. Similarly, on access to doctors and nurse practitioners, primary health care, we need to be able to provide both access to primary health care and institute preventative health care to reduce the number of people who are sick or chronically ill at the same time.
I'm going to move to education now. So as you know, there's a new education plan that is being created. How would you describe the overall state of New Brunswick's education system today?
Well, it's got some important, it's got gaps. It's got gaps. So the first gap is unbelievably, in a way, given the level of literacy in our education system and in our province, we don't screen, teachers are not required to screen for reading capacity in kindergarten, grade 1 and grade 2, the most important 3 years in the entire educational career of any student. Because basic screening tools, if the teachers were provided with them and required to use them, would identify kids right in kindergarten, grade 1, who are having difficulty reading, who are not in a good position to succeed, and remedial measures can be put in place to support them. The second thing in terms of gaps is a real focus on how to end the multiplicity of distractions that teachers face in creating effective learning environments in their classrooms.
So this is my last question. In the coming 12 months, in your opinion, what is the most critical issue for the business community in New Brunswick?
Donald Trump, for sure, and that means unpredictability. So that requires the ability to have some resilience, to be prepared to deal with we don't know what's going to come yet sort of thing, and also to deal with the fact that the affordability crisis is meaning that consumers are staying home in a sense. How can we reduce costs for business? We've advocated to reduce the small business tax, cut it in half. We've advocated strongly for support to ensure that the buildings businesses are operating in have low energy costs by programs and financing programs specifically to enable them to reduce their energy costs significantly. So there's something straightforward that the provincial government, Department of Energy, NB Power could help with significantly. And then also programmatically make sure that the energy that's being supplied increasingly is coming from free sources of energy, sun, wind, backed up by battery storage, that will provide stable power rates.
Thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview, and it was lovely to talk to you again.
My pleasure. Good to see you again, Danielle.
So we have a few questions for you. We'll begin a little bit broad. It was a big year. You had major capital expansions, a year marked by some district funding tensions, community engagement around your upcoming 10-year plan. How would you describe the overall state of New Brunswick's education system?
The education system is always evolving. It's always changing. And so we sort of have to be flexible and move along with it, I would say. And that's why having stable, well-resourced classrooms and schools is so important, so that we can evolve together kind of in the right direction of where we want to go in education. However, we know that there are areas for improvement. There are a lot of challenges in the public education system in New Brunswick, and these challenges didn't appear overnight, so they're not going to disappear overnight either. But we know as a government we're really, really interested in stabilizing the classroom and making sure that everybody has the resources that they need to learn how to read, how to write, and to be engaged in their learning, that they want to be in school. Because we've targeted 3 key indicators that we want to be held accountable for. So we are focused on literacy, we're focused on numeracy, and on chronic absenteeism. And we want to invest to make sure that we're investing in the right places to stabilize the classroom and to target resources where they need to be, close to the students, so that they can meet those key targets.
So we kind of alluded to a new 10-year education plan that is in development. I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about how this plan needs to serve students and educators and what it ultimately needs to accomplish.
The Ed Plan is coming up. So the last one was developed in 2016, so it's coming up in 2026. So it's an opportunity to take sort of a step back and to reflect on where we want to go in education. And really, since 2016, things have changed in New Brunswick. We've seen population growth, unprecedented population growth. Technology has changed quite a bit, and the cost of living has changed quite a bit. So I would say those are the things that have changed in the landscape, which puts us in a position where we need to sort of refocus, and how are we going to best serve New Brunswickers in the next sort of phase in education. And so on that front, we're welcoming a lot of diversity. I mentioned the cost of living. We know that that's top of mind for most New Brunswickers, which is why we focused on school food programs. So we're very excited about that. We were able to roll out the universal breakfast in 2025, and we're working on affordable lunches. So that's the landscape. And now we want to engage with everybody because everybody has an opinion on education. So we had public consultations, we had expert consultations, and we engaged with students themselves. Overall, 14,000 people participated in this consultation process into the education plan, which we're working on right now. We're working on a what we've heard document so far that we're going to be sharing very soon, within a couple of weeks, just to validate, to make sure that we really captured what people were telling us. And then after that, we're going to get working on the actual plan. And it's going to be like a long-term vision. But this time, what's going to be different about it is we're really going to go with smaller short-term targets as well.
And when is the plan expected?
In the spring.
Okay. I'm wondering if you can share your assessment around how well New Brunswick students are being prepared for what comes next, whether that's post-secondary or whether it's career readiness.
So as our test scores have indicated in the past, there was room for improvement in terms of literacy and numeracy, which is why we targeted those. And we're really excited about this year's results that indicated some good progress in literacy on the Anglophone side, stability on the Francophone side, and some work that needs to be done on the math front, which I would call the next frontier. So the good news is we know what we're good at, we know what we've improved on, and we know what needs some improvement. So I would say that's the base. The other part is the chronic absenteeism front. People need to be in school to be able to learn. So that's why we're targeting that as well. And then we're working with post-secondary on how we can have a more flexible approach to get students ready for what's next for them. And in the spirit of that, I'd love to share how we're really looking to value trades in the high schools again, because we've sort of moved away from that in the last few years, and we're really looking at revaluing that.
Thank you to the interim leader of the Progressive Conservative Party of New Brunswick, Glenn Savoy, for joining us tonight as we prepare for the 2026 State of the Province. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So we will hear shortly from the Premier on her perspective of the state of the province in 2026, but we'd love to ask you in just a couple sentences, what is the state of the province today?
Well, the state of the province is that we're in a state of uncertainty. We're certainly not moving in the right direction, based on any metrics that we're seeing.
So we'll get into some specific topics that I'm sure you'd like to speak to. Healthcare continues to be a top concern across the province. How would you assess the current state of our healthcare system?
Well, we're in a crisis state. When you look at the amount of people who are looking for doctors, when you look at the situation with the ALC beds, our healthcare system is in a crisis situation.
And what would you say should be the government's main priorities moving forward on healthcare specifically?
Well, I think their main priorities should be focused on getting more bodies working in the healthcare system, but also focusing on preventative measures. So helping New Brunswickers stay healthy before they get sick and have need of healthcare services.
So let's move over to education. We know that the government plans to publish a new education plan at some point this spring. How would you describe the overall state of the education system today?
The education system is in chaos. When you lower standards, you get lowered results. And that's what we're seeing out of our education system right now. Despite the teachers and the department's best efforts, that's what you're seeing right now.
And I think we'll just ask you a bit of a broader question. In the coming 12 months, what would you say is the most critical issue to New Brunswick's business community?
I believe the most critical issue to New Brunswick's business community is affordability. So when you look at small business, when you have customers that are unable to make purchases because money is tight, then businesses are going to struggle. If you look at large businesses, they need to have access to a large customer base in order to be able to do the things that they need to do to make money and be profitable. So I would say for small business and for large business, affordability based on the fact that their clients are going to see their dollars not go as far as they used to. It's going to be affordability for businesses.
Well, that's all the time we have for this evening, but I thank you for being here and sharing your perspective with us.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
How would you describe the overall state of New Brunswick environmental and regional development?
Environment is always on the top shelf of everybody's. It's on the top priority for everyone, especially for government. My mandate, as you read probably, and as everybody read, is to look at clean air, clean water, coastal erosion. Those are my big three mandates that I've been given. RDC, a little bit more fun file in the sense that we are working directly with communities, working directly with major projects. Look at the funding that we gave. We invested in the airport in Bathurst to get another transporter, which is great. We're looking at community infrastructures that we're building. And those are all generating economic development in our regions.
So the past year saw New Brunswick become the first province to sign a joint environmental assessment agreement with the federal government. How do you assess the impact of that shift on project certainty, regulatory efficiency, and environmental protection?
Environmental protection cannot be done alone. We need our partners, federally and provincially, but we also need individuals, we also need businesses, we also need the First Nations to be involved in all the aspects. We're trying to change legislation, but the signing of the agreement with the feds is to make sure that our EIA, our environmental assessment process, is thorough, and that it gives also a guideline for major projects proponents clarity on what to expect in these questions and answers that we need. It also protects, stops duplication. It's not to fast track, it's not to go faster, it's to be thorough, asking the question once, getting the good answers and bringing them back, and to see afterwards to make sure that we can protect the people and protect our environment.
At the Fredericton Chamber, we have highlighted that climate resilience, supply chain disruption, and regulatory alignment are key competitiveness issues for business entering 2026. How will your department work with the business community to ensure regulatory alignment, reduce climate risk, and also support firms adapting to new environmental realities?
We need to hear what businesses want and need. But again, we need better planning, we need better laws, we need better regulations to make sure that every citizen, every business, every community can strive and grow. And we've seen so many barriers in the past that I think that we can focus, better focus on together, on our priorities, our focus, to make sure that the decisions that we take today will have a long-lasting impact on municipalities, on businesses, and on individuals.
So it was a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time.
Merci.
Please welcome to the stage Ryan Dunn, Vice President, Government Relations, Rogers. Voulez accueillir sur la scène Monsieur Ryan Dunn, Vice-Président des Relations Gouvernementales de Rogers.
Merci beaucoup. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you today. At Rogers, our commitment to New Brunswick runs deep. We have close to 1,000 team members working across the province, spanning our retail to customer service to field technicians and network engineering. We're proud of the work that they do keeping this province connected. As we look to the future, we continue to make investments to expand our fiber and wireless networks across the province. To date, we have laid over 11,000 kilometers of fiber in New Brunswick, connecting over 365,000 homes. And over the next few years, we will construct over 30 new 5G sites. This will strengthen coverage across the Acadian Peninsula, Albert County, the Fundy Coast, and key transportation corridors. But we know more needs to be done to address coverage gaps. That's why last year, Rogers introduced the first satellite-to-mobile service in Canada, providing coverage across this country up to the 58th parallel. This service allows customers to send texts and connect with 911 in places where traditional networks have never been able to reach. This technology continues to evolve, and this year the service will expand to include voice calling and enhanced data services. As we all live through the winter storms, it reminds us once again how essential connectivity is. During the severe weather events in December, we worked hard to keep people connected by offering free satellite-to-mobile services to customers. Today, we announced that all customers in Atlantic Canada on 5G Plus plans will get satellite-to-mobile services at no cost. Our goal is simple: to support the communities we serve. Thank you. Our goal is simple: to support the communities we serve and to keep people connected where it matters most. Thank you all very much for your continued partnership. And now it's my honor to introduce our next speaker. Please welcome to the stage the President of the Fredericton Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Dave Milburn.
Thanks, Ryan. Welcome to the 52nd Annual Fredericton Chamber of Commerce State of the Province Address with Premier Susan Holt. My name is Dave Milburn. As President of the Fredericton Chamber of Commerce, it is my honor and pleasure to welcome you all here tonight. Thank you for joining us, and thank you to our sponsors for making this possible. A special thank you to Morgan, Judy, and the entire Chamber team for the monumental amount of work that goes into this event every year in our capital city. At the Chamber, we believe in the vital role entrepreneurs and businesses of all sizes play in creating prosperity. We also know that we depend on our community for our prosperity, from access to primary health care to education, as well as cultural and recreational opportunities. As our community continues to grow, it has never been more important for all sectors to collaborate. In 2026, the Fredericton Chamber of Commerce has identified collaboration as our defining advantage, and nowhere is that clearer than our role as the knowledge capital of Atlantic Canada. From our perspective and experience, knowledge isn't simply the lever for our transformation. It is the foundation on which the province's future is being built. And I say that from personal experience. When we talk about knowledge at the building level, we're talking about the full ecosystem required to build New Brunswick: architecture, skilled trades, applied research, agriculture, manufacturing, mining, and the thousands of competencies that shape our communities. It takes knowledge to design, to plan, to innovate, and just as importantly, it takes knowledge to recognize what our future needs truly are. Whether we are looking at expanding housing supply, modernizing infrastructure, or growing the innovation economy, New Brunswick's progress depends on education systems that prepare people for real opportunities in a province that values every form of expertise that contributes to its success. In addition to my role as President of the Chamber of Commerce, I am also the owner and operator of Focal Point Landscape Design and Installation here in Fredericton. As a small business owner for the last 18 years and a career in the landscape horticulture industry spanning 27 years so far, I have come to learn one important concept. The bottom will always build the top. Take a minute and let that sink in. Whatever industry or profession you are in, apply this concept in your mind for a moment. Where did you start? What were some foundational moments in your career or business? See, the thing about the bottom builds the top paradigm is that what is most important is often never understood nor visible. A tree is only as strong as its root system, yet the branches and the leaves get all the attention. But a tree without roots, nothing. There's not a single thing I can think of in my world, in my industry, that this concept doesn't apply to. Not one. And when I think of our province, our city, our community, I can't help but want to remind everyone that if you spend time carefully developing the foundation, the rest will fall into place. We are truly blessed as a company to get to do what we do for some very amazing people. We try to build relationships by staying true to our foundation. When I think about how I ended up here tonight, I have to be honest that in the past, I often viewed the Chamber of Commerce as a big business group, one that had no place for a small blue-collar construction business like mine. But over time, I kept building my foundations, choosing to network with many people who were interested in collaboration. I discovered that everyone I met, in one way or the other, faced the exact same challenges that I was facing. Different scales, same issues. I always return to my favorite concept: the bottom builds the top. You see, as I started to collaborate, knock down silos, network with business and community members, I realized I was continuing to build a better foundation. Through this experience, it is my personal conviction that we as a community need to make 2026 a year to collaborate, to bring all sectors to the table that represent every level, from the bottom to the top, from those in the concept and design phases to those breaking ground, to those creating the foundation, and so on, right down to every last detail. Why? I believe we're known as the knowledge capital. What about if we started looking at knowledge from the building level? How do we build a workforce without exposing our youth to the most important foundational skills? I'm talking about skills we need to communicate with each other, person to person, face to face, to be inclusive, to have the opportunity to engage in all their five senses, to expose them to the vast amount of career options that exist in a community that collaborates. We also need to combine this awareness with the necessary pedagogy to ensure we are delivering these core foundations. Projections indicate that in the next 10 years, there will be a substantial shortage of skilled trades professionals in this province. This situation doesn't lend itself well to the growing demands of housing and infrastructure that we are currently facing. Development and infrastructure does not happen without skilled trades. We truly need all forms of knowledge from every sector for the future of New Brunswick. This is why the Chamber continues to emphasize that growth requires people, and people require pathways. Pathways to education, to training, to meaningful work, and to belonging in our communities. When we align our systems, when we harmonize our efforts, and when we treat knowledge as a shared foundation for economic and social progress, we position New Brunswick not just to keep pace, but to lead. In this year of collaboration, this is our opportunity to build together, to learn together, and to grow together, guided by a clear vision of what this province can become. In just a few moments, we will be hearing from Premier Holt on the state of the province and her vision for the future. Premier, I will follow in a long line of Chamber presidents and wish you the very best. Your success is all of our success. I look forward to hearing from you and your team about what's to come for New Brunswick. Next, I would like to ask that you join me in thanking our generous sponsors. Without the support of our sponsors, this event could not be possible. Please hold your applause until all sponsors have been named. Platinum sponsor, Siemens Canada. Gold sponsor, Emera New Brunswick and Rogers. Silver sponsors, Bell Alliant, Porter O'Brien, and Stuart McKelvey. Venue sponsor, Fredericton Convention Center. Wine sponsor, the Association of Professional Engineers and Geoscientists of New Brunswick. Private reception sponsor, New Brunswick Medical Society. Excellent in Innovation table sponsor, New Brunswick Innovation Foundation. NB Small Business table sponsor, Opportunities New Brunswick. Young Entrepreneur table sponsor, Insurance Bureau of Canada. New Brunswick Table of Honor Global Public Affairs. And our bronze sponsors, Canadian Credit Union Association, New Brunswick Association of CBDCs, Delta Hotels, Marriott Fredericton, Exclusive Events, Forest NB, Fredericton International Airport Authority, Kears Marketing, Liberty, New Brunswick Real Estate Association, Port St. John, Rainbow Printing, Research New Brunswick, Rob Blanchard Photography, Robert Simmons, and Signature Sound. And to Riverview Ford Lincoln and Riverview Honda, our inclusive experience sponsor. Thank you for your support. It is now my pleasure to invite Mr. Faisal Kazi to the stage, CEO of Siemens Canada.
So I want you to think back to a world before electricity, when steam powered our machines, when horses carried us across distances, and when ideas could only travel as fast as a letter. And then came a new general purpose technology, electricity. It changed our lives overnight. It turned night into day. It amplified human potential, and it powered progress in ways once unimaginable. My company, Siemens, was helping lead that industrial revolution. Now, fast forward 150 years, a new general purpose technology, a transformative force, is here: artificial intelligence. And it will fundamentally change the way we live, the way we work, the way we manufacture our products, the way we build our infrastructure, and even the way we manage our cities. The AI revolution has begun, and it's advancing faster than ever before. We all heard that hindsight is 20/20. We look at our failures, our mistakes, we analyze them, and then we say, I see what I did wrong. But what if we were to flip the script, and what if clarity would come first? What electricity achieved in decades, artificial intelligence will accomplish in a handful of years, because intelligence will be embedded in everything we rely on every day. Bonsoir, Honorable Premier Minister Holt, Ministre invité distingué, Madame et Monsieur.
And distinguished members, ladies and gentlemen,
To be here tonight. I think it's my 10th time standing on this podium. And the last time I was here, I shared with you how we can combine the real and the digital worlds to create value, how we can create digital twins, virtual replicas of physical elements, and how digital twins are transforming industries across the world. Today, I'm excited to share with you how we are bringing this technology to New Brunswick. So HD Hyundai is one of the world's leading shipbuilders, and they are using Siemens digital twin technology to create precise virtual replicas of entire ships. The virtual ship is modeling everything from the last nut and bolt to simulating how it will handle rough ocean currents. This allows them to optimize ship design even before construction begins. Because they have flipped the script, they gain clarity first. Now, this is not just about engineering, it's proactive precision at an unprecedented scale. So after the successful completion of the smart meter rollout here in New Brunswick, we are working with NB Power to use digital twin technology, this technology which I showed you, to create a virtual models of the key components of the Belledune generating station. Now, what does it mean for you as New Brunswicker? It means that operators can spot potential issues before they occur, improve reliability by identifying maintenance requirements much sooner, and keep the equipment running smoothly, saving time and reducing costly shutdowns. It's high tech, it's high impact, and it enhances the resilience of the New Brunswick electricity system. Many times on this podium, I have said that New Brunswick, time and again, sets the bar when it comes to deploying new technologies. Because this province embraces innovation, it embraces sustainability, where many are leaving it behind, and most importantly, this province embraces collaboration. However, if we want to continue to set the bar, we will need to upskill our future generation with all these new technologies. So that is why today we announce that Siemens will grant the state-of-the-art digital twin software suite, the entire suite, to University of New Brunswick. Thank you. So the images you saw later from HD Hyundai's ship is now software at the fingertips of UNB and its students. It will help build critical skill sets for data modeling, prediction analysis, digital twinning, artificial intelligence, which could be applied in many different industries. We believe it will uniquely place New Brunswick to lead the way when it comes to digital twin technologies. We are also very proud to work with Minister Chesson, there he is, and his team, the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, to make government buildings energy efficient. After the success of our pilots in Shediac, the smart grid pilots, we are now piloting a new project using the Siemens state-of-the-art Building X platform. And this project is expected to reduce the energy consumption in government buildings between 10 to 25%. Using these technologies, we are making these buildings smarter. When they are smarter, they are more efficient. When they're more efficient, they are more sustainable. And that's, I think, fully in line with Premier Holt's net zero policy. So by combining the latest technologies with homegrown talent here in New Brunswick, I think New Brunswick can see ahead. We can move from hindsight 2020 to foresight is 2020. Together, we can transform challenges into progress, innovation into impact, and today's ideas into tomorrow's sustainable solutions. Thank you very much. Now it's my pleasure and honor to introduce Premier Susan Holt. We are very happy that you are here. You made it back. So Premier Susan Holt is a fiercely passionate advocate for the small but this mighty province of New Brunswick. Elected in 2024 as the 35th Premier, Premier Holt leads a government that is focused on delivering a future with better healthcare close to home, a modern and growing economy where every New Brunswicker can live affordably and prosper. Premier Holt has both local as well as global business experience, having worked in sales, human resources, and global management roles with large information technology firms. She also has experience in community leadership, provincial and national advocacy, as well as experience within government working on economic policy. That experience has shaped her practical approach to leadership. One puts collaboration, accountability, and results at its core. Premier Holt places a high value on public engagement. She regularly meets frontline workers, community leaders, municipalities, Indigenous partners, entrepreneurs, and even her neighbors to ensure that government decisions are informed by lived experiences. Premier Holt represents the people. She believes that effective leadership starts with respect for people's time, their perspective, and most importantly, their contributions to the province. Premier Holt represents the people of riding of Fredericton South Silverwood. She and her husband, John, have 3 daughters, Molly, Paige, and Brooke. As Premier, Susan Holt leads with a deep love for this province and its people, and the belief that government can and should make a meaningful difference in people's everyday life. Please help me in welcoming Susan Holt.
Merci beaucoup. Merci énormément. Je ne sais pas si on doit attendre que la vidéo est finie.
Thank you. I don't know if we have to wait for the video to finish.
Okay. Thank you very much. Merci énormément, tout le monde. I can't tell you how happy I am to be home in New Brunswick. There is no place I'd rather be. And I have to take a moment. We're so lucky in this little province where everyone is close and you can find yourself in a bit of a jam in Ottawa and get bailed out by a good old friend, a local business person and entrepreneur. Huge thanks to Cook Aquaculture for letting me hop a ride on your plane and get back home in time. Merci beaucoup, Joel. Je sais pas où tu es.
Thank you very much, Joel. I don't know where you are.
I am thrilled to be with you tonight. I am taking a moment, Faisal mentioned a year ago, thinking back to where we were in 2025. I was standing here on January 30th, and we thought we were 2 days away from 25% tariffs being applied across our province and across our country in every sector. Je pense qu'il y avait une incertitude.
I think there was uncertainty in the room, uncertainty on what was coming.
Et maintenant, aujourd'hui,
And today, we're here, and still the uncertainty remains. There's stress.
the new threat of a 50% tariff on aircraft made in Canada going to the US. And I don't know about you, but I'm like, well. Do we think that's going to happen? It's been such an unpredictable year, and that uncertainty sits deep. And we can't underestimate the impact that it has on our energy, on our mental health, and on our economy and the people of this province. Now, there have been some pretty incredible speeches delivered in the last little while, so I want to set some expectations here. I am much more likely to quote Bob Weir, may he rest in peace, than I am Thucydides. So just want to make sure we know where the bar is. But I hope that we can have this conversation tonight, recognize the challenges, and talk about the possibilities of the future. Because we may have been dealt a tough hand. We may not like the cards that we're holding at the moment. But this is New Brunswick, and I know we can turn these cards into a winning hand. Alors, ce qui va se passer ce soir, je vais
So
donner
what
un
will
petit
happen
peu
tonight,
survol
I will
du
give you an
soir et on va voir
overview
quatre
of the
parties
night.
de
We'll
ce
have
discours.
4 parts
En
in
première
this
partie,
speech.
je
The
vais
first
faire
part,
un sommaire
I
de
will give
2025,
you a
qu'est-ce qui s'est passé
summary
dans
of
les dernières
2025, what
12 mois.
happened in the
After
last
that, I'm
12
going to do an
months.
overview of our performance measures. You would have seen some of them up on the screen. How did we fare against the commitments we made to you a year ago today about the things that were important to this province and that we were going to work on and measure? After that, I'm going to dive in, so I'll do a quick skim over most of those measures, but then I'm going to dive into health and our economic measures with our Minister of Health, Dr. John Dornan, and our Minister of Finance and Energy, Renee Legacy. Once we're done chatting about those two important subjects, after that, I'm going to turn to the future, and we're going to talk about what you should expect out of the Holt government for the year ahead. Pour nous autres, c'est vraiment important.
For us, it's very important to share with you what happens and take this moment to look at the future and share with you what you could expect from the government for 2026.
Should help you decide when you're going to take your bathroom breaks and when you're going to go and make a call. So let's get to 2025. Our first year in government, there's a lot of things that we put in place. I promise you that we didn't plan this, but Dave's comments resonated with me and with what I want to lay out for you today, because 2025 for us was a year of building the foundation. You have to start at the bottom. You have to start with the roots, particularly when you want to make transformational change. Alors, nous avons fait plusieurs choses
So
en
we
2025
made many
pour mettre
changes
une
in
bonne
2025
fondation,
to
la
set
propre
the
fondation
right
qu'on peut
foundation
construire
so that
là-dessus,
we can
qui peut
build
tenir,
over
la
it
pression,
and that
puis
we
tout
make
qu'on va
sure
mettre
that the
là-dessus.
pressure will
Alors,
be
pour cette
supported by
semaine,
this
a few of the
foundation.
things- a few of the things that we did this year. We put out a provincial mineral strategy and framework. We put out a provincial health plan. We removed barriers to interprovincial trade. On a mettre en place un déjeuner
Then
universel
we
pour
put in place
chaque
a
école dans la
universal
province. On a
breakfast
amélioré les
in all
services
schools in the
cellulaires.
province.
Might be
We
hard to
improved
believe,
the
but we did,
cell
and actually
services.
not hard to believe for some of the folks in this room who just described it to us. Thank you, Ryan. And there's more to come on that front. On a augmenté le financement pour l'infrastructure pour les municipalités.
We increased the financing for
started to
infrastructures
rebuild
and
by
municipality.
recognizing and respecting and rebuilding our relationship with First Nations in this province. That is a critical step to building the foundation that we want to grow from in the future.
We launched our review of energy in New Brunswick. We reviewed the property taxes and implemented a freeze in taxes for this year. We eliminated the carbon tax adjuster and we removed we decreased the price of gas. We improved the situation for teachers in New Brunswick.
What we got into in 2025. But these things that I listed are some of those critical foundational elements that are going to help us ensure that we have the people we need, the relationships that we need, and the environment that we need to grow from. Because it is important that we find growth in the years ahead. When I was here a year ago, I think I gave you 3 letters to describe how this speech was going to go. Je pense qu'en français,
in French, I think it was ACE.
Not going to go there. Mais c'était l'imputabilité.
But it was imputability, change, and team in French.
The English acronym was ACT, Accountability, Change, and Team. This year, I'm going to cover the same themes, but I'm going to flip them around a little bit. I want to start with the team, because that work that you saw and heard me describe from 2025 was the work of an incredible group of individuals that I am so proud to stand beside and serve with. So if there are members of the whole team in the room, could you please stand? Come on, come on. Yes. This is an incredible group of people who have been working so hard. Ils travaillent tellement fort.
They worked so hard. They worked so hard in the last year. I love you all. Thank you for the team to being here, and thank you for all you've done last year.
Politics, and I am fortunate to have the best one. So let's move on to accountability, l'imputabilité.
Accountability. This is the second part of our speech today.
Accountability is really important. It's why we set measures, made them available to the public and everyone, tried wherever possible to ensure that those measures were measured independently of government so that you could have trust that they weren't being manipulated to show the best possible results. This is real data that's coming from Stats Canada, the Health Council, and other organizations outside of government that helps direct and focus our work. And I'm a firm believer that what you measure matters, and if you want to manage things, then you need to have measures to help you manage them. I didn't get that right. What is that expression? Measure what matters, matter what matters? Anyway, I think you get the point. How can you say it matters if you're not measuring it and if you don't know where you're going and you don't know where you've been? So it was really important for us to not only put in place the measures that count, but pick targets of where we thought we could get to year over year over year so that you could hold us accountable.
We could know where we need to know where we need to put more strength and where we have to improve. We need accountability and measures, even if the results are not the results we want.
That we would share this information regularly, whether it is good news or bad. And you may have seen already, it is not all good news. There are some numbers up there that are ugly and uncomfortable. But we're not going to hide from the truth of how things are going in New Brunswick, and we're not going to make excuses for what the numbers tell us. We're going to use these measures like a fire in my belly to motivate ourselves, to focus our efforts more, and make sure we are doing the things we need to move in the right direction.
You can see in your program that there is a QR code. If you take a picture, it will lead you to the website where you'll have the detail of all the measurements we've made. We presented our results with health and economy. Tomorrow it will be education for the media, so that you will have more details to the media. We want to be transparent. We want to make everything accessible for all. This is a tool, and if we share our measures or measurements, you can participate in the work.
Clear, public, transparent, that can help you, help us, get us all on the same path, working toward the same goals. So one more thing I want to share about before I get into this is my strategy with report cards. I'm sure we have some parents in the room. On report card day, when your kid comes home from school and you pull out the manila envelope, and the first thing I do is scan the numbers. I go, are there threes, are there 3 pluses, are there 4s, where are they? Are they different and better from last term or what? So I go through the whole report card just checking out the numbers. Then I go to the back page where there's a paragraph of context that tells me how my kid is actually doing in that classroom. Are they an attentive student? Are they a friend to their classmates? Est-ce qu'il fait un travail?
Are they passionate by their work? Are they embarrassed? This information is very important for me, and it allows me to determine that the number that I'm looking at are, what do they mean?
I'm going to share with you tonight. We're going to do a skim over the numbers so you can see where we landed with our 3s and 3 pluses or whatever, you'll see the numbers. And then we'll go into the context behind it. In some cases, what did we do to achieve that result? What are we going to do to move the needle towards our target for 2026? Overall, I won't give this report card a grade. I'm sure the media and some of my colleagues in the legislature will do that for us. I would call these mixed results.
I think the teachers in second grade said it's more or less okay.
And as I mentioned before, there are some numbers that we're not happy with. And so we're going to go through them. You can use them however you see fit. Hopefully they will motivate you as they motivate us to align your work and focus what we're doing in the best interest of growth for our province. Okay, alors je vais commencer. Je pense que
So I will start. I think the screens will be sharing the slides and the measures. We'll start with housing. This is managed by the Minister David Hickey, that is responsible for Housing NB.
And you're right to clap. David has done a great job, and he's already reminding us in caucus every day that he's 3 for 3 on his measures, and they're all green. And so kudos, David. But are there any developers or municipal partners in the room? I know I've seen some municipal electeds and some other people that are working to tackle the housing challenge with us. I want to thank you for these results, because you chose to act and to drive growth and tackling the housing crisis with us, and that's why we have exceptional numbers in this category. I don't see the slides coming up, so I hope that's not a glitch. Okay. So here's the first one, and it's a big one. 7,587 new housing starts in 2025. This is the highest number that New Brunswick has ever seen, even including the war boom, higher than 1973. C'est un accomplissement majeur.
This is a major accomplishment because our objective was 6,000. I think last year it was 6,169. So this result is incredible. We think it's because we removed the tax, the 15% HST on the multi-housing units.
Not only to the removal of tax, but to a pro-growth culture, a change in attitude in the team, and how David and his group partner with you, municipalities and leaders in development in your communities. And so I'll shout out to my colleagues of the federal government who also drove that tax off of developments. Thank you, because you can see it's getting results. The other measure that we're really proud of is affordable housing starts. We had set a goal of 320, and we achieved 343 affordable units. And you can see an ambitious goal of 430 units next year. A couple years ago, we had a spike. There was a unique one-time $100 million investment that drove that number up to the peak of what the system could sustain. We had a number of nonprofit partners who did everything they could to make that happen in 2024. They took a breath this past year, and now we're fired up to get that 430 next year. La troisième, c'est un petit peu plus difficile à expliquer.
The third is a little bit more difficult to explain. Homelessness, chronic homelessness. If you understand the definition, this is someone that is experiencing homelessness that's more than a few days a month.
We expected it to be 1,050, and it's actually 996. But for those of you who work in this space, you know these numbers are volatile and they move. But we are on a path to reduce chronic homelessness by 40% to 621, and we have taken a great first step on that path. How we attribute success in this metric is important because we are seeing a slowdown of entry into homelessness because of some of the steps that David and his team took. And if we're slowing the entry into homelessness and building resilient housing solutions, that's how we're going to achieve this. So things like a rent cap, things like a direct-to-tenant subsidy, those are preventing people from finding themselves experiencing homelessness. C'est un excellent travail de l'équipe.
It's great work from the team. We're optimistic that we will continue to move in the right direction, and I'd like to congratulate everyone here that contributed to those results. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next one, Éducation. Education and these metrics that I know are near and dear to Minister Claire Johnson's heart. Where are you, Claire? Can I see you in there? There she is. Excellent. Thank you. We were really pleased to see a decrease in chronic absenteeism in both of our school systems. This is really important. We're not going to move the needle on literacy or numeracy if kids aren't in school. Alors, nous avons atteint 29,3%. L'objectif pour l'année prochaine était...
We reduced the chronic absenteeism. We're almost at the target. These are encouraging results. I think we'll be able to attain the target for next year. We'll see scores for literacy are very encouraging as well, 2 out of 3. Look at the numbers for the Anglophone district.
We thought, because this is a hard needle to move, that we would be at 53.8 next year, and we're at 55.3% this year. That is movement in the right direction. Puis aussi avec le système en immersion, c'est la même chose, mais c'est pas tout à fait positif.
It's not quite as positive because you'll see in the Francophone system, we saw a reduction in literacy rates, and that was noted because that was the best result.
And so they've taken a step back this year, and Claire and her team are digging in because we know what to do to get the numbers up. The work that was taken, and I want to credit my colleagues from the previous government, much of this can be credited to the move to the science of reading. Some of it, that was the critical first step. That was the foundation. What we did last year was put the right resources around that program. Academic support teachers in the classroom beside the students, focused on making sure that curriculum was helping them realize their full potential. Alors, cet investissement de support
so these supports in those support teachers have contributed to those results. So we'll learn from those, from that work in order to implement it for the next measure.
This is numeracy results. It's not good news. We've seen a drop in both the Francophone and the Anglophone system, and this is what helps us because it focuses our attention. There was a lot of emphasis on literacy and how we were going to get those numbers up. Curriculum was changed. Resource plans were modified. Everybody was aligned on what we needed to do to help kids read. Now we see something that we suspected about a year ago is coming into effect. Alors on sait où mettre notre effort.
We know where to concentrate our efforts, where to focus for the next year. Claire and her team will take the same approach and will make these results more positive for the coming years. So the third, there were 4 measures when it comes to the environment. All of them are in the green.
Our environmental measures are all green. This is actually mostly good news. There's not a lot of negative to say about what we saw on the environmental side. The first target was greenhouse gas emissions per tons per unit per tons per million unit of GDP. I have to get that right. This came in considerably below what we expected. And again, that's thanks to the people in this room who are making thoughtful investments in how they reduce their emissions, even as they're driving up productivity and output. Alors, nous sommes heureux de voir qu'on va dans la bonne direction là. Le deuxième,
We're going in the right direction. The second is the air quality. Is that the next one? Outdoor air quality. The current state was 74%, and we hit our target. There are monitors throughout the province that are telling us what the air quality is, and we're in the right position. The next one is efficiency, that we're continuing to see savings with energy efficiency. We attained our goal for next year, and we hope that we will continue to go in the right direction because we have a good minister, Mr. Lepage. Where is he? Minister of the Environment? Oh, yes, great. Thank you. Great work.
The last one is a tricky one to explain. You're going to hear more about it in the future. When we were on the stage last year, we said that we didn't have data on indoor air quality in government buildings. And so it was really hard to set a target or a measure. And we set out in 2025 to get the data we needed in order to set an appropriate target for clean air. And we started with our schools. So I'm pleased to say that today there are 90 schools in the province. That's 30.5% of our total amount of schools. We've got about 300 of them that now have monitoring technology that is telling us the quality of the air and the concentration of CO2 every 15 minutes. By June of this year, we will have 100% of the schools in New Brunswick equipped with this monitoring technology. So we will know how clean the air is in our schools, and then we can move to putting in place the solutions and the remediation to ensure that that air quality is at the level that you expect for your kids. Alors, on a du travail à continuer de faire, mais nous sommes vraiment optimistes.
So we still have work to be done, but we're very optimistic with this one. Thank you, Gilles. If there are nerds like me in this room and you want more information, you can go to the website and you can find all of the context
on where these measures were in the multiple years past, what our targets are for the year ahead. So if you really want to get a good picture of the trend lines, where we've been and where we're going, and you want to dig in at a more micro level, it is all on the website for you, gnb.ca/accountability. Vous pouvez aller voir. Claire, je sais que tu l'as déjà fait.
Imputabilité, you can go see all of the data to better understand our results, our performance. Now I'd like to focus on our two priorities for tonight.
And I want to talk about the economy. I'm going to invite up shortly Minister Dornan to join me, but I'm going to give a bit of an overview of the metrics first. So we're going to start. This was literally the first metric that we established. I would call it the most important metric. It is our top priority, and it is the worst one of the bunch. So what you see here is the percentage of New Brunswickers who have a family doctor or a nurse practitioner. And that number has continued its downward slide. It has been on a downward trajectory since about 2017. And we had hoped that we would have turned the corner in 2025, pardon me. But we have not, and this is the result we have. That number of 72.5%, that represents 238,000 New Brunswickers who aren't attached to primary care. That's 40,000 more New Brunswickers than when I was standing here last year, and our attachment or an unattached level was about 200,000 New Brunswickers. That's a number that keeps me up at night. I know that's a number that is a fire in the belly of Dr. John Dornan. I won't tell you when he sent me the text, because he got access to this data first, There might have been some salty language in there describing the result. That's how both of us felt. And I might have had a moment and thought, are we going to present this? Are we going to present this tonight? Because last year at this time, we didn't have up-to-date numbers, actually. We didn't get the numbers for 2024 until mid-2025. But it is what it is, and we're not going to hide it. What we're going to do is tell you what we put in place as a foundation to address this and what we're doing in the year ahead to make sure that when we're standing here next year, that number has turned the corner and the slide we're experiencing in patient attachment ends. On a fait beaucoup de travail cette année. Merci.
We did a lot of work.
The good stuff is coming up. On a fait beaucoup de travail
We did a
cette
lot of
année
work
pour
this
mettre en place
year
la
to
fondation
implement
pour améliorer les soins de santé.
the foundation to improve healthcare. We had to do a number of things. We had to first respect our staff, retain nurses, and other measures.
Caring for the people who cared for us, by showing respect, by putting in place the retention mechanisms, by ensuring people had competitive compensation, a good competitive contract with the nurses, a groundbreaking, country-leading contract with our physicians, that we are confident that it is going to deliver the results that we want. We signed that contract in November. It goes into effect April 1 of 2026. We are already seeing the interest from doctors across the country and outside of this country who want to come and see, how does this model that incentivizes me to attach patients, that incentivizes me to build a team of healthcare professionals around my patients and in their community, how is that going to help us turn the corner on this metric that has been going in the wrong direction for a long time? Alors nous autres, on ne va pas.
So we won't react in an abrupt manner.
We're not going to blow things up this year. I believe firmly that we have done the right things in the last 12 months, and that if we give it time, and I'm not a patient woman, so this is hard for me, then we will see the results we are hoping for. But because it didn't happen this year, we're putting our foot on the accelerator. We bought the car, we pulled it out of the lot, and now we've got to put our foot on the gas, drive it down the road, and make sure that we are attaching New Brunswickers to primary care in the next 12 months. All right, so with that as a tee up, I'm going to invite up Minister John Dornan, Dr. John Dornan, I should say, our health minister, who he and I are going to face the music on this one, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's to come in 2026 and how, boy, this place is packed. Yeah. For those who are watching at home, you can't see how many people we've crammed in here. I hope the fire marshal's not watching. Maybe I'll pour John a glass of water.
Hello there.
Have a seat.
I think I need a little bit more than a glass of water.
We're on live TV, John. So, tell me.
Premier Holt, this is not a 5K race. This is a marathon. And none of us got into this thinking that this would be solved overnight. We can't instantly have every doctor and every nurse that are already working at their max take on a bunch more people. That has been tried in the past and hasn't worked. This is a marathon, and you got to start your first 10K slowly. We're in it for the long haul, and that first 10K involved bringing on our partners. The Medical Society has negotiated a good contract that's, well, good for the incumbents, but more importantly, will attract new people. Doctors that are graduating will not leave here. Doctors that are working in Quebec, other parts of Canada, are coming here. Doctors that are first newcomers are being credentialed to work here in New Brunswick. There's a whole bunch of mechanisms that will increase the number of physicians. We have a good nursing contract. Nurses are starting to come back. We are increasing the numbers of nurse practitioners that will take on patients. So, Premier Holt, every clinic that we announced last year, none of them signed on 6,000 patients the next day. In fact, many waited until the contract was signed, and now the chickens are coming home to roost. We're seeing more people come on every single day. By next year, we'll see the results of efforts that we've made over this past year. The year after, we will see the results of the new clinics that have started this year. The year after, we will see more. So we have a good plan. It's the best plan in the country, frankly. We've looked at other jurisdictions, and to involve fee-for-service physicians, salaried physicians, nurse practitioners, pharmacists, dietitians, a whole slew of people that are working to their scope. This will work. It's a marathon, Premier.
Excellent. Thank you. Can you give me a little more detail? Like we have one big number that says 72.5, but the picture isn't the same all across the province. There are regions that were better and regions that were worse. Do we want to share that with the folks in the room?
Sure. I hate to say this in Fredericton. Fredericton is our biggest challenge, and Frederictonians have known this. Many of you people live here, and you know that you might not have a family doctor. So we're going to focus on getting new healthcare providers in Fredericton, in the Miramichi, and in the northern part of the province. So this is our biggest challenge, but there's a challenge everywhere. And I think that we need to know that there's a long-term plan. We're feeding the roots. Trees didn't start to grow overnight, but it will. It'll pick up and it'll be a healthy tree. And so we're quite excited about that. I'm loath to ask people to be patient when you don't have a doctor. It's all about the people of New Brunswick. We're glad to support doctors and nurses, but it's the people that they serve that we want to support.
So in 2026, what are we going to add? How are we putting our foot on the gas to make sure that when we're sitting here next year, we're celebrating instead of hanging our heads?
Well, you know, I'm embarrassed to see 72%, but I'm not hanging my head. We have a plan. The plan will work. We are working with our partners. The folks at the Medical Society have skin on the game. And they have a good contract. They're going to use that to bring more people in. They're going to be our advocates. Nurses will be the same way. They'll advocate for people coming back to work in our hospitals and working in our communities. So that's what we're going to do. Work well with our partners, work with people in our health. We have a very strong team there. And we are going to encourage these teams to help us bring on more people, to attach more people. It will work.
Okay. Now there is a bit of a silver lining in the next data point. So some people, the 72.5% of New Brunswickers that do have a family doctor will be pleased to see that we have improved your timely access, and now almost 3% more people are getting an appointment within 5 days or less, which applies to about 3/4 of our province. I think our colleagues at the Health Council would tell us this number is critical because the first measure and the second measure go hand in hand. Si on voulait, on pouvait dire que tout le monde a un médecin.
We could say that everybody has a family physician. On paper, we can say that. We can connect everybody, but this waiting time to see your doctor or nurse practitioner will be zero in the future, so we have to do things together. There are things that we've done that contributed to this important result.
What would you attribute the improvement in timely access to?
Well, Premier, some of the people that said they didn't have a family doctor on this survey had family doctors. If you can't get in to see your family doctor for 2 months and you're asked if you have a family doctor, what are you going to say? And so a significant number of people now say, yeah, I could get in within 5 days. I have a family doctor that's accessible when I need it, where I need it. And so we want that number to grow even more. And frankly, we think that if that number grew more, we would have more people acknowledging that they truly do have family doctors. And so we are working with our society, physicians that are now not having to complete paperwork, not having to manage the overhead, not having to worry about where their office is going to be today, have more time to see patients. And so I think that's contributing to more rapid access to their patients.
Yeah, excellent. So some of the technology that we've inserted, some of the funding to hire staff and supports have helped our existing clinics and teams see their patient roster in a more timely way, which really matters when you need to see your care provider. So the third metric I was, I think, supposed to talk about before you came up here, but I'll go over it now. And this one, I want to put a real asterisk next to.
Because it looks like a positive number, and yes, it's positive somehow. Honestly, some people said that our objective of maintaining the number of people who are on the nursing homes wait list was not ambitious, but the reality is that with our population growth and our demographic situation, the forecast was that it will increase dramatically, and the fact that it didn't increase that fast and there is a decrease by 12 people, it's positive, but it is
really volatile. It moves month to month. And so this is a December number. The number for January could have changed by 100 people. We're not celebrating this one yet. We're really in the weeds of doing the work with our partners at the Health Authority. We've made changes to policy. We've increased wages in long-term care. We've invested in home care accessibility. And the Minister, Lynn Chantal Boudreau, our Minister of Seniors, is in the room, and she and partners. Lynn Chantal et les partenaires travaillent sur un nouveau
and the partners are working on a new long-term care plan.
February of 2026, we will release a new long-term care plan supported by all of the partners involved, and we will continue the moves that we have done. Our partners at the health authorities that move to what we're calling a no-refusal policy is getting people out of hospitals and into the few available beds that we have. There is a lot more work to be done here, and it impacts both the Department of Health and the Department of Social Development and the work being led by our Minister of Seniors.
Premier, I'd like to echo that. We have good RHAs, board chairs, CEOs who are working hard to allow ALC patients to get to where they get better care, and that's in the community. Minister Boudreau is working with developers in our community to refurbish homes so that they can take more patients and perhaps reconsider what they do with their homes that need to be repurposed. So from the health part, from social development that will help assess people more quickly, and Mr. Boudreau's ability to get those people out, I feel very bullish on this fund.
Excellent. Anything else you want to add?
Well, I've been told never to pass up an opportunity. So I would like to thank the team that's behind us at Health that's come up with the best collaborative care clinic plan in the country, maybe the world, as Mr. Trump would say. And it will work. There's no reason why it shouldn't. We have build the bricks. We have advocates, to use the word, a tiger team that will help these teams bring on more staff to roster more patients. So I'm very bullish. We will turn this corner.
Well, I look forward to hearing more about the Attachment Tiger team in the near future. And I want to thank Minister John Dornan for his leadership on this file. Okay, I'm glad to get that one out because it's still going to be the one that I'm thinking about tonight and tomorrow, but I am grateful to John, to the Medical Society, to the nurse practitioners, to the folks at Vitalité, to the folks at Horizon, to the folks at the Department of Health, to allied healthcare professionals and everybody who are working with us and aligned in the effort to make sure that patients are attached, and when they're attached, they have timely care.
I'm looking forward to coming next year with better news for all of you. Now we'll talk about economy. This is our other priority. It is extremely important for right now for many reasons. Our next guest will talk about it. We had two measures with economy.
But these ones go hand in hand, actually. A healthy population drives a healthy economy. We need both of these pieces to be working in order for New Brunswick to thrive. We started off with a measure on wages, and this one is going in the right direction. So we saw in 2025 a 3.7% increase to wages in New Brunswick. That is absolutely what we want to see, especially in the kind of challenging times we've had. Our government wants to make sure that New Brunswickers have jobs that pay the bills. And we're thinking about how we do that every day. So even though this number is positive, we know that we are in a storm economically with uncertainty, with global unpredictability. And so we are going to continue to think of what can we do, and actually we'll talk quite a bit about this later, to make sure that New Brunswickers have the kind of jobs that are putting food on the table and helping them maintain their way of life. That's what we want to do here. Notre gouvernement veut assurer que tout le monde.
Government wants to make sure that everybody in New Brunswick has access to a job that allow them to pay their bills, that allow them to live with their standards of life, to keep their way of living in the province that we all love. This is an important one. We'll talk about what we can do to improve this measure and make sure that we continue in the future.
This is one for the wonks out there, and it takes some time to explain, but it's really important. It's important because it's future focused. We are looking at how many people between the ages of 20 and 29 are engaged in training, education, or employment. Because that's your future, right? Folks in that demographic, if they're in school, learning, training, or employed, then they're in a good place likely and moving in the right direction. But New Brunswick has one of the highest percentages of people who aren't in this age bracket in employment or education or training. We are well below the national average, and this continues to move in the wrong direction. 81%, so imagine that. Almost 20% of people between 20 and 29 aren't working or learning right now in New Brunswick. That does not bode well for our future. Alors, notre équipe,
our team, it's managed by Jean-Claude Damour, our minister. If you give him a challenge,
look out. He will work day and night, 7 a.m., 7 p.m., to make sure that we are doing the things we need to do to move this. Right now, the Department of Post-Secondary Education, Training and Labor is engaged on the front lines in our schools, identifying the students that might be vulnerable to not having a path after high school and putting the kind of programs in place that will support them. They're engaging with people who have been on social assistance in this age bracket to work closely with them to map out a path to employment or to training so that we can see a movement in this needle, which is like a forecast for New Brunswick's economy in the years to come. So we want to make sure people have jobs that pay the bills, and we want to make sure that our up-and-coming working generation has the tools they need to live the way of life and the life they want in this province. Alors, je vais inviter le ministre.
I will invite now the Minister of Finance and Energy and the Vice Premier René Lagacé to join me here for a conversation. Come here.
John, did you have a drink of this glass of water? Okay. All right. I don't have to pour a fresh one? It's okay. It's okay? Okay, do you want to?
I'm going to try this chair.
Okay, perfect. All right, so you...
Oh, John, you're running warm. It's like, brings you into a hot seat. All right.
Or... Okay, so you have a big portfolio of two critical elements to our economy with finance and with energy. Where do you want to start?
Well, I'd start, can I go back to the first metric?
Absolutely.
Because it sometimes you can get a sense that you're just measuring what's happening, but it's not by accident. There's a couple of things that I want to talk about the growth in wages. Three things, actually. The last one's fun. Number one, David Hickey with the construction. They're good paying jobs, and those housing starts had an impact on the wage increase. So that is a big, it's not by accident that it happens. The other one, quite proud of, I gotta take my breath here, it's a long walk. We negotiated contracts last year for civil service, and almost 32,000 of our civil servants now are under contract in the first year. That's over 66% of our contracts. That had impact on wages going up.
What kind of labor groups are those? Remind me what those...
Nurses was a big one. QP, a lot of QP. We've still got a lot of work to do, and the teams are working on a weekly basis to get the balance of the contracts done, but there were big unions, there were a lot of heavy lifts, so that had an impact. But when I look at 3.7, and my team, when I ask for metrics, I don't get one or two, I get 38. So one that I found interesting, and I got my notes here, one that I found interesting is we measure the total amount of wages and salaries that are paid over the year. And last year, that number increased by just a shade over $972 million. So that is $972 million that are going into New Brunswickers' pockets in wages to spend in the province and to live and to pay their bills. Huge difference, huge difference. Those are real numbers.
Okay. Excellent. So do you want to talk to me about energy?
Yeah, there's a lot of conversation.
I mean,
around
it's a
energy.
critical component, right, to a growing economy is making sure that we have the right energy infrastructure. So what can we expect in 2026?
Well, there's number one, there's a lot of conversation around energy, but specifically on economic development, very few projects come to this province where the proponents aren't asking, is there energy available? So we need to make sure that the resource is there and that we're ready as a province to supply. And that's a big component of it. But in honesty,
I'll switch to French. The fact that the energy sector has so many opportunities, the government of Canada, the Premier or the Prime Minister Carney was very clear that we want to be an energy superpower, and New Brunswick is very well positioned to be part of that strategy.
We are in a very, very good spot. We proved that last weekend. If you all read the news and checked the media, our neighbors were worried. They were stressed about having their lights come on, their heat stay on. And New Brunswick guaranteed that everybody got it done because all our generating stations were working. NB Power was 100% last weekend, and we were the backbone of Atlantic Canada to make sure that happened, and we have the opportunity to expand that and grow on that and be that leader for the northeastern part of the province, of the country, sorry.
Well, I've been in Ottawa the last 2 days, and we're talking quite a bit about building regional energy resilience, investing in those interties, partnering on generation efforts so that we can have a diverse complement of energy generation. We can have robust and reinvested transmission lines between, for us, it's New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, New Brunswick and PEI, New brunswick and Quebec, New Brunswick and the U.S., and that's work. Some of those projects are going to be really interesting projects for people in this room to work on. Puis ça nous donne des opportunités économiques.
That offers us economic opportunities because of the results, but also to work on our interties in the meantime.
But on interties, great announcement last week. It had been announced previously with a $600 million project with Nova Scotia. What got announced last week, which was amazing, was the equity partnership with First Nations on both the Nova Scotia side and the New Brunswick side, which will just build capacity. I can't diminish the contribution that First Nations brings to the energy file. They are leading the way. They're building their knowledge, their expertise, and they're such a great partner in this field.
So what other opportunities do you see in our economy in 2026?
Well, there's obviously some big projects coming up and some actual projects that are going to move the needle on our GDP and our growth. We previously had a couple of comments around the fact that there's going to be challenge around making sure we have supply and workforce, which is a good problem to have. But these major projects, like just the intertie at $600 million, we know St. John has some great big projects. There's some stuff happening in the north. Maybe soon we'll be announcing a mine that'll reopen. We'll be happy to see that. So there is across the province just a real energy. Another. Like I was looking at some metrics around industrial growth and exports, and those are down, obviously because of what's going on with our southern neighbor. But then I look at investments from companies into their infrastructure, and that's up. So that means there's confidence out there. People feel that there's potential, and that gives me confidence that this economy, we're going to pull through it.
Okay, so along with being the Minister of Energy, you're also the Minister of Finance.
Yeah.
Tell me how we capitalize on all these opportunities given our capacity to invest.
Well, I'm thinking you're probably going to talk about this a little bit after. We are at a crossroads right now with finance. Everybody knows, I'm not going to surprise anybody with our current situation with our our deficit. But we're at a crossroads because we have a window of opportunity to transform. That window is small, and we need to use it right now, because if we don't transform and do things differently to achieve the results that we want, and that's the goal, it's to achieve the objective. If we don't, we'll lose the opportunity to choose. It'll be forced upon us. So as much as it's concerning, we have the opportunity, we have the means to do it, we just need to do it in a manner that's strategic, and I believe we are doing that.
Moi, je suis heureux d'avoir toi, René.
And I'm happy and proud to have you as a partner.
You wouldn't envy what René goes through in balancing all of this work, but I very much appreciate it. Anything you want to add at the end?
Well, on that, I will echo my colleague, Minister Dornan, Dr. Dornan. With a great team, everything seems easier, and we have an amazing team. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so that is the overview of our performance metrics. I know we didn't go into all 15 in detail, otherwise only about half of you would be left in the room, right? What time is it? But I want to reinforce the point. 2025 was a year of building the foundation. We were putting things in place that we are going to build off of. And when I look at those metrics, there's a lot of things there that I am proud of. Mais clairement, il y a des places où on doit mettre plus.
But clearly, we must focus on concentrate on a certain elements. That's the benefit of having measures, to have a program of accountability and better transparency.
We're here to tell you how we're doing, to share it transparently, to speak plainly about our performance, to give you the information you need to assess whether you think it's good or good enough. And if you see things that you don't like in that data, then come and help us make it better. And if you see things worth celebrating, well, let's build on that. We need this strong foundation, because before we put the roof on, we're going to build this up to a multi-story building in New Brunswick. Alors, 2026, c'était l'année de créer la fondation.
New Brunswick 2025 was about building the foundation.
We need to launch a new economic development strategy that is going to seize the opportunity that's in front of us as a province. But before we get into that, I'm going to save that more optimistic note for the end. I want to build on what René was saying in terms of the fiscal times that we are in. He mentioned the deficit. Most people in this room know that that's what we're experiencing. We do not have unlimited amounts of money. We do not have a GDP that is moving at the rate that it had been in the past. He mentioned the decrease that we're seeing in exports because of what's happening in the US. The picture is challenging. The picture is challenging for New Brunswickers at home as well. There are tough times being experienced by many New Brunswickers, whether they are feeling insecure, the uncertainty that we talk about here, people are feeling insecure at home. I'm sure there's a lot of people, knowing how cold it's been these last number of days, that are feeling afraid of that next power bill that's going to land. They're looking at their property tax evaluations that just came in and seeing how they've gone up, and the value of their property has gone up, and we've held the taxation against last year's value, but what does that mean for next year? I'm feeling stressed. I'm feeling like I don't know what's coming, and that is an uncomfortable feeling that New Brunswickers are expressing to us. We want to recognize that there's a burden that comes with that kind of insecurity. Some cases, they're feeling insecure in their own communities. Le sentiment de ne pas être en sécurité.
To feel unsafe in the community is something new for New Brunswickers, with this insecurity, financial insecurity, social insecurity. It's a difficult time for many people.
We want to be able to help New Brunswickers with affordability. We want to help people live safely and securely in this province. We want to help people have access to health care and maintain that health care for their family and maintain their way of life in New Brunswick. So we have to find ways to do that, which means we have to take difficult decisions. There are really challenging decisions to come for our province in terms of how we fuel our ambitions for growth, how we invest in improving your healthcare and making life more affordable. Means we have to stop doing some other things. And they're going to be things that we don't want to stop doing. You will see next week, I believe, we will be presenting options to the public on some of these difficult decisions, different areas where we think that we could find savings in order to invest in jobs that pay the bills and in order to invest in your health care. It's going to be tough, and I'm asking folks in the room tonight to join us in that conversation. Je vais demander aussi tout le monde.
I'd like to ask everybody in the room and people at home to help, but we need your help. This must be a collaborative conversation together. We heard that your priorities are healthcare and affordable living, not stability.
We need you to help us identify the areas that we can reduce spending in order to fuel our healthcare system and our economy. Because in times like these, the riskiest thing that you can do is do nothing. Our government is not going to do nothing. We are going to move. We are going to work. We are going to invest in New Brunswickers in this province, and we are going to have to make difficult decisions in order to do that. La décision difficile.
Difficult decisions are coming, but we cannot do nothing. We cannot choose to not act. It's a time where we have to seize this opportunity to make the choice to invest in our economy, invest in New Brunswickers and in their healthcare, and to see the results after making decisions and lose things that we need or that we want and love. I'm asking you to work with us in a collaborative manner for the next days and weeks so that we can do the investments that you deserve and to maintain our fiscal responsibility.
As responsible a fiscal position as possible, while making sure we don't miss this opportunity to strengthen our economy and to deliver the healthcare that you need. We are in a position to do that. New Brunswick has the lowest debt to GDP ratio east of Saskatchewan. We have the fourth best debt per capita in the country, and when I look around at my neighboring provinces, I look at Nova Scotia, I look at Ontario, I look at other places, we're seeing the same thing across the board. I was talking to my fellow premiers at the Council of the Federation today and yesterday, and people are in similar boats. There's difficult decisions being made everywhere because none of us have unlimited amounts of money. New Brunswick is in a position where we can manage some level of deficit in order to invest in what you need and deserve. And so that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to turn the corner now and let's talk about 2026 and what's ahead. And I'm going to do this pretty quickly because we are going to be launching New Brunswick's economic development strategy in the coming weeks. You can dive in and see the detail there. We are focused on 3 clear objectives. Chuck, you're being rowdy over there. Okay. 3 objectifs économiques.
3 economic objectives. We will reduce the gap in productivity. We will improve and attract investments in our economy, and we will increase and diversify our exports and our clients and our markets.
We are going to attract more investment to our province, and we are going to find new clients and new markets abroad. That's it. Simple, that's the goal. We need to get more productive, we need to attract more investment, and we need new clients that are not the United States. And so that's the focus of our economic development plan. There are There are 5 levers the government can pull to create the conditions for that growth. Je vais aller vraiment vite.
I'll go very fast. They're responsible for the conditions for the capital, to attract capital. So we'll make changes in the tax credits
better small business investor tax program. It is coming soon, right, Luke? How soon? So, he wasn't expecting me to ask him that, but it is coming very soon that you will have the new and expanded SBITC to leverage. We need to make sure that we have access to those productivity tools, which looks like industrial innovation. Thank you, Faisal, for the contribution of that digital twin software to the University of New Brunswick. That's going to help here. We need those kind of tools at our fingertips to drive productivity in this economy. And we have a number of businesses in New Brunswick that are leading the way on industrial innovation. We've got to lean into that and go further. Ça, c'est la deuxième. La troisième.
This is the second pillar. The third pillar is the labor. We need people connected and aligned to our strategic objectives. We need to have the economic infrastructure.
Because this is foundational to our growth. This means ports. Port of Belledune, Port of St. John. This means airports. I saw Joanne Galland. We probably have folks from Moncton and St. John and Bathurst and our airports here. This means high-speed internet. We need the kind of economic infrastructure that gets your ideas, your salespeople, and your goods to their customers because there is demand out there for what New Brunswick has. On a besoin d'avoir l'infrastructure.
We need the infrastructure that will allow us welcome and help our clients the more efficient possible.
We've got people, we've got economic infrastructure, and the third one, or the fourth one, is quite related, and that's energy infrastructure. The minister already talked about how important this is going to be for the future and how challenging things have been in our energy environment here in New Brunswick. I talked a minute ago about the New Brunswickers, many of them who are struggling with their bills and the increases they've seen in their cost of power. We have to do some major things to get that cost of power to a more manageable place, but we can do it if we invest in our energy infrastructure. So here is the sword, right? We need to be able to invest in new nuclear. We need to be able to invest in those interties, in more wind, in more solar. We need to be able to invest in hydrogen opportunities, in biomass up in the north to get the kind of generation going with modern and efficient infrastructure that helps bend the curve on rates and drive the cost of energy down. We need to do that in partnership with our neighbors, with the federal government, and with the folks around the world who want to invest in New Brunswick's energy assets. C'est pas simple. On va recevoir les recommandations.
It's not easy to receive the recommendations from the group who's reviewing New Brunswick Power NB, but we have the assets
that we can be using for our economic future. That means that we're going to have good paying jobs for New Brunswickers, and that means we'll then have the capacity to deliver affordability. We want more affordable power in New Brunswick. It is going to take investment and effort to get there, but our government is not going to do nothing. We are going to get at it. We are going to make the cuts we need to, and we are going to invest where we need to, because at this time, there have never been more people interested in being partners in our energy infrastructure and in our economic infrastructure to support the ambition that New Brunswick has on the world stage. Okay, so let's get a little bit more specific. I've given you the 3 overall goals and the 5 enablers of growth that we're going to tackle. Now I want to highlight a couple of these strategic opportunities that are unique to New Brunswick, and that these are the things we're really going to lean into to deliver growth.
We have maybe too many opportunities for growth. We need to focus. So 2 main things we will do. We will put the emphasis and the opportunities on our natural resources, and we'll invest in our human resources.
Unlock the value of our natural resources here in New Brunswick, and now is the time to do it, because the world is shifting. The global trade order is shifting, and the number of countries and people out there that want to invest in the minerals that we have, minerals that will deliver green energy technology like solar panels and wind turbines, the kind of minerals that will deliver for defense equipment and solutions. We have those in New Brunswick. We are going to advance the Sisson Mine project. Renee mentioned the reopening of Caribou. We've got Mount Pleasant, we've got Lake George. We have an opportunity in mining that we haven't seen in a long time, and our government and Minister John Herron is going after it. We are going to direct our efforts in those conditions, yes. The window, as Renee said, is tight on this. We've got to move, and we've got to move now or we will miss it. So we are putting all of our efforts and lining them all up in this area. There's legislation that's going to be tabled in 2026 to allow us to realize the benefit of our mineral resources. But we are not just rich in mineral natural resources. New Brunswick is the best place for food. We have an incredible agriculture sector. We are going to see growth in the agriculture sector this year. Minister Finnegan is coming out with an agricultural growth action plan, very much informed by the Agricultural Alliance and the work they did to build a strategy. His plan shows me that we have the possibility to grow our GDP by another $1 billion, $1 billion by 2035 with investment in our incredible food producers, our incredible aquaculture and fishery producers. So New Brunswick is going to put its natural resources out into the world, and we're going to see $1 billion of return from these incredible products that we grow and make here at home. So we've got minerals, we've got food, we've got fish, and we've got wood. Wood is our other natural resource that has incredible value. We have the highest quality wood in New Brunswick. Je pense qu'il y a du monde dans cette salle qui connaît.
I know that people in this room know that it's difficult for the tariffs with 45% in wood. It's difficult to be competitive. We are looking for new markets, new applications, but we're lucky in New Brunswick because an incredible wood
forestry sector. And while we're seeing curtailments and shutdowns in other provinces, the folks who work in the woods and who work in our forestry sector in New Brunswick are knuckling down, they're getting creative, they're tightening their belts, they're coming up with new contracts, and they're looking out into the world at everyone who wants to buy from Canada right now, and they're making it work. And we're going to support them with an economic development strategy that makes sure that New Brunswick's incredible wood products are going everywhere around the world in order to deliver value back to New Brunswickers. Okay. So that's one half. That's our natural resources. Now I want to move on to our human resources and our knowledge resources, because there is opportunity here as well that we're going to capitalize on. I want to start with the defense sector. New Brunswick is where Canada's military is made. We are playing a critical role at this moment in time. Yes, we have some folks from CFB Gagetown here. It has never been more opportunity in defense than right now, and it has never been more critical. Canada's position and Canada's sovereignty has been under threat. Our allies around the world have been shifting, and we see things we would never have expected. I'm thinking of Greenland and other things that make investment in defense and investment in Arctic security and investment in Canada's ability to protect itself critical. And New Brunswick is going to benefit from that, not only because we're where Canada's military is made, we also have brilliant people who are leading in cyber defense, research that's happening both at the University of New Brunswick, up here at the Knowledge Park. On a du monde à l'Université de Moncton.
We have people in the University of Moncton that are expert in AI, in applications for defense.
We are going to see nearly a $1 billion investment from the federal government into New Brunswick's defense sector. So this is an opportunity to be seized. That means that we as a provincial government need to make sure that the workforce is there, that the infrastructure is there, that we are partnering with those conditions for growth to make sure that that $1 billion of defense investment is going to New Brunswick contractors and is benefiting communities in every corner of this province.
With defense, with cybersecurity, we also have some experts in housing and modular constructions. We're leaders in this innovative way of building here. We build houses. For other provinces, we'll do it for ourselves. But the opportunity for exportation and our competence is something that we will highlight.
Our creative knowledge and human capacity. We have a creative sector that punches above its weight with very little support. We're going to be looking to them to see what kind of opportunities we can drive. And those people align with New Brunswickers who welcome people from around the world to this province. We had our best year in tourism ever last year. We have...
We have a new touristic strategy with big ambition.
$1 billion of new visitor investment by 2031. So there is real money and real opportunity in tourism, and we are going to attract it. So if you're keeping track, we've got $1 billion of opportunity in agriculture, $1 milliard d'opportunités en défense, $1 milliard
in defense, $1 billion in touristic opportunities.
And we have to meet this moment. That's why New Brunswick has created the Growth Office, a small team of people who are focused on major projects, who are focused on some of the opportunities I mentioned in minerals and defense and otherwise, to make sure that we maximize the benefit of these opportunities, that those dollars are coming into New Brunswick, into our businesses, into our paychecks, to make sure that New Brunswickers have jobs that pay the bills, to maintain their way of life in this province. Moi, je suis optimiste que cette bureau de
I am optimistic this growth office and our new strategy, our ambition for the new economy will have an impact in the years to come.
That New Brunswick, we have what the world wants. We have the minerals, the food, the wood, the people, the ideas, the capacity to deliver what the world needs and what Canada needs right now. And our government is going after it, and I want you to join me. Okay. We're coming up to the final piece here now. So we are committed to weathering this storm with you with a steady hand. We're not going to make rash decisions. We're not going to change course every other day. When you've got to batten down the hashes, you got to make sure that your compass is pointed in the right direction. You got to face the winds. We know what it feels like to have saltwater wind blowing on our faces. Some of us love that, whether you're at the Baie de Chaleur or the Baie de Fundy or the Bay of Fundy or the Northumberland Strait. We know what it's like to weather the storm and keep a steady hand on the tiller. That's what we're going to do because New Brunswick is well positioned. We have what the world wants. And when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And New Brunswickers are nothing if not tough. We have the people here who are going to make it happen.
You didn't create this problem. No one in this room is the source of this issue that we're being confronted with, but you are part of this solution.
This is something that takes all of us rowing together on that boat that's weathering the storm. We all have a role to play and to be part of the solution. And I want you to know that your government has got New Brunswick's back. We are going to back this province on every stage and at every chance that we get. Because this uncertainty, it weighs heavy on a lot of us. It has an impact on people's mental health, and New Brunswickers are feeling the challenge. What I can commit to you is the whole government will deliver you the certainty that we can. We will be transparent. We will be accountable. We will have New Brunswick's back. We will focus on these specific opportunities for growth. We will invest in you and your potential, in our human resources and in our natural resources. We will make sure that we are delivering you the care that you deserve and that these growth opportunities are going to pay the bills. Nous autres, on va contribuer.
We will contribute to this uncertainty with certainty. You can rely on us to be there, to be transparent, to be accountable, to defend the interests of New Brunswick and to defend its interest on every podium that we have the opportunity to be at.
We are focused on specific growth opportunities because tough times don't last forever. but tough people do. And New Brunswick is going to get through this and be stronger for it. Now, I kind of promised a Bob Weir quote at the beginning of this. I don't know if we have many Grateful Dead fans in the room, but yes, yeah. Aw, shout out to my husband, Mr. New Brunswick, John Holt. Rocking a Sami Zayn t-shirt this year because Sammy's going for the title and the belt in a couple days. A good Canadian about to win a WWE title. So thinking about Bob Weir. A Bob Weir quote that I love from one of my favorite Grateful Dead songs. The Doodah Man once told me, you've got to play your hand. The cards ain't worth a dime if you don't lay them down. We have the cards, and they are worth more than a dime. We will play a winning hand, and we will deliver. Ensemble, on va jouer. Nous prendrons cette main.
Together we will play and we will deal this hand. We will play this hand. We'll stimulate the economy for a better future for everyone.
We are going to seize this moment, and we will deliver care for you, and we will fuel our economy for a brighter future for all New Brunswickers. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Welcome to the post-show of the 52nd Annual Fredericton Chamber of Commerce State of the Province Address. My name is Morgan Peters. I'm CEO of the Fredericton Chamber. It is my pleasure to continue the tradition of this event and host the Premier for a post-show interview to dig deeper into the issues. At the Fredericton Chamber, part of our role is to convene constructive public dialogue on the issues that affect New Brunswickers and the business community most. To that end, please welcome Premier Holt. I'm going to begin by asking my traditional question in this interview, which is, in a few sentences, what is the state of the province today?
The province is in tough, but we are made up of tough people, and tough times bring out tough people. And so we're weathering the storm better than some of our neighbors, but the uncertainty is pushing people to take steps maybe they've never taken before.
Building on that and your commitments at last year's State of the Province Address and your comments tonight, what do you see as the biggest economic opportunities we have here in New Brunswick?
There's big opportunities in resources. I know you've heard me talk a little bit about our minerals and how much interest there is in the kind of critical minerals that New Brunswick has access to. Tungsten, molybdenum, indium, antimony, manganese, copper, zinc, potash. We are going to see a return of the days when New Brunswick used to be a mining powerhouse. We're going to get people good paying jobs by putting the resources under our feet to work for New Brunswickers. That's one. The other is defense. Our federal government is investing in defense in ways that we haven't seen in a very long time. And New Brunswick is the place that Canada's military is made. And so there's going to be significant investment coming to New Brunswick that we will have an opportunity to really leverage and capitalize on to make sure every penny is going to New Brunswick suppliers and contractors and benefiting communities in every corner of the province.
Building on that and working with our neighbors, last spring we saw a flurry of MOUs with other provinces, Ontario, Newfoundland and Labrador. Where do we stand on that? Is that harmonization still a key focus for your government?
We did quite a bit of work, and I'll credit Minister Jean-Claude Damoul, who's really taken the lead on this one, with the federal government that I'm still waiting to see some of the outcomes to. There's a transportation pilot that we think could yield significant benefit to New Brunswickers, that harmonization of all of the standardized trucking rules so that goods can move from New Brunswick to customers in any other part of the country. We haven't seen that fully land yet, as well as some of the changes to CFIA, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, that New Brunswick businesses have been calling for because they have world-class products that we want to get into the hands of people clamoring for them in the provinces next door. So those pieces I think still need some work and some push. I'm looking forward to continuing those conversations with my colleagues. But here in New Brunswick, we did the legislative things we needed to unlock labor mobility, remove trade barriers between our province and other provinces. So now we have to take advantage of the fact that that work's been done.
Coming on the heels of last week, the World Economic Forum, Prime Minister Carney's comments of the rules-based order has been ruptured and Canada must build strength at home, be both principled and pragmatic, ensure we can feed ourselves, fuel ourselves, and defend ourselves. In New Brunswick, what do you see that as meaning in practical terms?
Well, it means a couple things, and this gives me a chance to expand on the answer that I previously gave in terms of the strengths in our economy. Minerals is one, but we have resources in wood, in food, in fish. Our agricultural products are the highest quality in the world. And there's something that most diets would benefit from, the kind of seafood that we're producing and other aquaculture products, the kind of agricultural products that we're producing. We need to grow those and to grow how we transform and add value to them for ourselves and for Canada, but also for the rest of the world, because the demand that we're seeing coming from Asia and Europe and Africa for New Brunswick's food and fish products is growing at a really encouraging rate. The fuel piece is critical. Having energy sovereignty and being able to make sure that we can provide the energy that New Brunswickers demand at an affordable cost, reliably, has never been more important and also never been more in question as we see things shifting all around us. So New Brunswick actually has a lot of assets when it comes to our energy makeup that if we manage them properly, if we invest in them properly, then that fuel will help us economically and will help the rest of the country.
Coming back to home, I know a big focus of your government is the education system. In the business community, we agree that's kind of the key to unlocking our short, medium, and long-term economic opportunities. And I'd like to ask this question in kind of that business economic growth sense. So if an international or national company were to call you today and ask you what is the state of our education system, what would you tell them?
Well, our education system has some of the best educators in the world. We have incredible teachers here in New Brunswick, and you see it as they win awards on the national stage and beyond. We also have an extremely accessible education system. So schools in every corner of the province that meet standards that are consistent regardless of what part of the province that you're in. They are under strain, physical strain. We know that a lot of our schools are overflowing at the seams with students, but we're in a position of transition. So we, as you know, invested in making sure that we have universal breakfast in every school in the province. We just launched our retention and recruitment plan for teachers to make sure that we continue to have the best and the brightest teachers in our system. We're developing the next education plan for New Brunswick, because this is a time when we want to shift some of the models of how we deliver education to make sure that those outcomes and literacy and numeracy are competitive and leading, so that people know when their kids are coming into the Brunswick education system, they're going to be accepted, welcome, they're going to get a personalized and tailored education from the best educators out there, and they're going to achieve the kind of results that will set them up to succeed anywhere in the world for their careers and dreams.
So in continuing along the education continuum, do you see our public universities and colleges as strategic resources? And if so, how can we leverage them more heading into 2026?
Our post-secondary education institutions play a critical role in developing both the knowledge and the workforce to take advantage of some of the opportunities that you and I already talked about. We were just up in Bathurst last week with the Collège Communautaire de Nouveau-Brunswick, investing in modern trades education environments for their students and for anyone who wants to go and study a skill set that is going to be extremely important to both our defense interests, our housing interests, our mineral interests, and others. So we need to make sure that our post-secondary partners are producing what we need. We talked about education, that retention and recruitment of teachers who have got the latest and greatest education on how to work with curriculum and with the students that we have. On the healthcare sector, we are constantly looking at new ways to train and form specialists, nurses, doctors, and beyond, and we do that in partnership with the world-class universities that New Brunswick is fortunate to have.
So let's get an update. How is your government working to ensure that growing population centers especially will see meaningful near-term improvements in access to primary care?
Access to primary care is our obsession. It is the thing that we are spending the most time on, the most energy, and that's a province-wide emphasis, but some of our population centers, our urban population centers, particularly here in Fredericton, are areas that need the most influx of new people, new clinics, more capacity to make sure that patients are getting that access to primary care. So last year we put the foundation in place. We did those retention bonuses. We negotiated new contracts with nurses and doctors. We confirmed and firmed up the model of collaborative care. Now it's about going full steam ahead, getting all of the recruiters on board, making sure that everyone understands how they can maximize the foundation we've put in place, and really working closely with people to get those clinics developed.
Just said in a previously described 2025 as a foundational year and 26 being a results-focused year. So what results are you hoping to see this coming year and beyond?
Well, it really is. It's that attachment and timely access. So we would have loved to see the metric on number of New Brunswickers attached to primary care turn around this year. We've been doing a lot of work with the 11 clinics that we opened with Vitalité and Horizon and Medavie and folks outside of those systems to make sure that folks understand the model. We negotiated really hard on the contract that technically comes into effect in April of this year, but we signed last November because we need to see the results come out of those investments that we've made.
Shifting to a related topic, I would suggest public safety has become an urgent concern for citizens and the business community, particularly as challenges in mental health and addictions and homelessness increase. With the province launching the Ministerial Task Force on Homelessness, with the City of Fredericton's 47 recommendations from our Community Safety Committee, what areas does your government see as the most immediate and essential areas to address to improve public safety?
There's 3 different areas that are different that all require investment. So one is on the front lines, right? Communities all over the province are struggling with having their police forces fully staffed, whether it's a municipal or a regional or RCMP or otherwise. We have to make sure that we have people in community that can be there and respond when citizens need them. And that promotes both a sense of security and it helps disincentivize future crime. But that's at the front end. We also need to move upstream. And the more people that are getting supported earlier on, the more people we can prevent from falling into that time of crisis, the better. That's why we've looked at those mental health supports. How do we make sure that we have mental health supports in place in schools? How do we extend that on to make sure that people have ready access quickly when they're experiencing mental health challenges? But all of those 2 things both connect to the one that we are working on probably most visibly, and that's the notion of supportive housing. You can't get out of crisis if you don't have a roof over your head. It's really hard to receive services and support if you don't have a roof over your head.
So moving to housing more broadly, your government's implemented the PST removal, have aggressive housing start targets, which communities aren't quite meeting yet, but maybe on the path there. There's expanded tenant protections. Where does New Brunswick currently stand on housing? Are you satisfied with the progress made in the first year or so?
Well, I'm really pleased with the progress that we made this year. You probably noticed the slide showing 7,587 housing starts this year, the highest in New Brunswick since before the war boom, and considerably higher than the 6,000 unit target that we set. So we're thrilled that the community really responded to the removal of tax off of multi-unit developments. We're seeing most of those new starts in apartments and multi-unit dwellings. I know the Minister Hickey has been working really hard with his partners at the federal government to make sure that we're drawing partnership for those projects and to make sure that we're balancing it with getting affordable units built. So it was good to see that that metric has also been achieved.
Housing and a lot of other issues we've talked about so far require your government to work closely with municipalities. Our urban centres are among Canada's fastest growing CMAs, as you know. But this growth creates real pressures on infrastructure, transportation, housing, and other services. How will your government work with municipalities to ensure urban-specific needs are met?
Municipalities have been a priority of mine. I think whenever we've had the opportunity to be with our mayors and councillors and local leaders, our team takes them. You would have seen that Minister Kennedy was out there all over the province engaging last year and building those relationships. And same with Minister Hickey and Minister Johnson and others. We all, if a mayor or councillor calls, those are the calls that we answer right away because they're the closest to our citizens, and we want to make sure that we're in regular contact and that those relationships are strong. So that was a big part of last year. So this year I think we're going to keep that up, that regular contact, being out of this office and into their communities, making their priorities our priorities. I think gone are the days where municipalities used to come to government with a list and government would go, I like number 5 and we'll do number 7, but ignoring the top priorities of the community. Now, if this community says that's their number 1 priority, then that's going to be our number 1 priority. And the other piece that's really tangible that we've done there was Minister Kennedy and the team created the new capital infrastructure funding for municipalities. So monies that they've been asking for so that they can invest in infrastructure. And the provincial government that is there as a partner and with real dollars on the table to help them catch up on the kind of infrastructure deficits that municipalities are experiencing the same way the province is.
And how about working with Indigenous communities? I know since the last time we spoke, this time last year, you've signed new tax sharing agreements with all 14 First Nations in New Brunswick. What opportunities do these economic partnerships offer to the province?
These agreements really encourage and create the conditions for First Nations to go out and build on their assets, whether that's in tourism, whether that's in retail, whether that's in resources or otherwise, and to get economic activity going in their community with a partner at the provincial government that's going to share that opportunity with them so that they can build and grow and support their unique needs. We spent a lot of time this year on those relationships, as I know you know, Morgan, meeting with chiefs and going into community one-on-one and understanding exactly that. What are their hopes and dreams? What are their challenges? How can we be a good partner at the provincial government? And this tax agreement was, well, as I gave the example with municipalities, this was the number 1 thing on their list. This is the one thing they wanted us to tackle and tackle first.
One of the things that I've heard most from our members this past year is on population growth, workforce, and immigration. I'm sure no surprise to you. Chambers have jointly urged Ottawa to adopt an Atlantic-specific immigration carve-out, given sharp federal reductions in PNP and AIP. With our region facing, again, aging demographics and labor shortages, do you believe Atlantic Canada should have a strengthened and regionally tailored immigration policy?
100% yes. And I'm very grateful that the chambers have taken that position and that leadership position to say, we need to do this ourselves, because the one-size-fits-all approach that the federal government has taken to immigration is hurting New Brunswick. They're trying to punish regions for abusing temporary foreign worker programs. They put a cap in place at 5%. New Brunswick doesn't have anywhere near 5% temporary foreign workers, and yet we're being penalized as if we did. We need to be bringing people in that can build the affordable homes that New Brunswickers want. We're seeing that in the healthcare sector, particularly in long-term care. We do not have access to the staff here in New Brunswick that are going to take care of you and I when we get older, or our parents or whomever. And so if we can't be bringing in exactly who the New Brunswick economy needs in a way that's timely and responsive, then we're going to find ourselves in a position of decline. We'd like to have that kind of freedom and autonomy to identify the people that are exactly who New Brunswick's economy needs.
I would want to close by circling back to energy, which I know you've already touched on. NB Power gets a lot of the public discourse on energy, but I know there's a lot more going on behind the scenes. You touched on some of it. Can you just talk to us about the plan to ensure New Brunswick has the energy it needs reliably, affordably, and cleanly over the next decade or so?
We have to be managing and investing in our new generation and our existing systems in ways that help us keep the cost to the consumer at the lowest price possible. And I'm grateful that we're not paying the rates they're paying in Newfoundland or the rates they're paying in PEI. But even though they're paying those higher rates, it still hasn't delivered them reliable energy because they're facing brownouts. We're going to do everything we can to make sure New Brunswick does not reach that point and continues to have lower rates and reliable power for people.
So speaking of the other Atlantic provinces, I think that begs the question of the Atlantic Loop. Is that still on provincial government's radar? Is it on your radar?
We're looking at a version of the Atlantic Loop that's been modernized. It's 2.0, and we're calling it the Eastern Energy Partnership to make sure that collectively we have the generation resources and the transmission resources that'll help us back each other up, give us some redundancy and some resilience, and an ability to then take excess power and sell it for profit to our other neighbors.
Thank you for answering all of my questions here tonight. Thank you for delivering your second State of the Province address. I hope tonight's conversation reflects the kind of open dialogue that is a real strength in our community and our province. We're proud to host the State of the Province address and to support the dialogue throughout the year. We look forward to continuing to build partnerships and collaborate towards New Brunswick's growth and prosperity.
Thanks for having me.